Hey, guys, it's Tuesday at 7, and I am starting the broadcast. So I'm early, so really not going to talk about the exact details until 7 o'clock. But I figured I'd sign on about 5 minutes early, start pattering about. So as folks join us, we can connect early, and they'll see the notifications that we're live. As you may know, if you're live, you could always just hit the share button and that'll share out to your friends. Not necessary, but if you think that this would be of interest to them, I certainly encourage you to do so. And we're looking forward to Tuesday at 7. We're going to be doing it for the months of both August and September. August, we're going to be talking about, for the most part, we're going to be talking about improvisation, character building. I know that's of special interest to a lot of folks, and it came up as a request, so we're going to do that. And then in the month of September, we're going to be going back to special effects. And so as folks are hopefully picking up some good things here in August, that might translate into special effects, and we can do some character building and some nice work in September. Again, the month of August, we're talking about improv. Thank you for joining. I know there's a few folks jumping on. I'm seeing them now. Thank you for joining. And if you feel compelled, hit the share button at the bottom so that your friends could take a look at this. But what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to wait a few more minutes before starting, is we're talking about improvisation. And I'll talk to you a little bit about where I first caught the bug, and then how improvisation gave me what I believe is maybe an unfair advantage in some different aspects of my life. Because I learned about it in the art form and in acting form, I was able to apply that to other areas, both in sales, both in applying for jobs, connecting with folks. I think that as we train ourselves to improv and to be prepared to respond to unexpected questions, unexpected physical reactions, and then we can certainly do that, I think, with great ease in other areas of our life as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're not going to go super long here on this the first Tuesday of August. Probably going to go certainly less than a half hour, maybe even less than that. And then next week we're going to kind of peel back the layers, and talk about if you're looking to create an improvisational character, or if you're taking a look at trying to do some character building personally and professionally, and then perhaps even take a look at how to move that into a space to be more successful as an actor, as a character, as a person, as a business. And then I'll be sharing also my contact information so that if folks want to contact me and kind of follow up on that, I'm happy to do that. Again, for those folks who are wondering, I'm not selling anything. I'm not although I do some personal coaching, that's not really what I do for a living. I am a father. Also, my wife and I, Beth, we own a consulting business, work with health benefits and employee benefits, and that pays the mortgage, helps feed the family, helps us buy dog treats for our dog. But what I'm doing is just trying to share, pass forward the knowledge that I've gained over the years, thinking that I prefer to share it. And those folks who want to kind of grab it and use it, I invite to. And those folks who are like, nah, it doesn't really apply to me, that's cool too. And if that's you, thanks for joining, and hopefully you'll find some good things here that'll apply to you and your business, your personal life, etc. I am not wearing my glasses. I'm an older guy, so what I'm going to do is kind of go through the story. I'm going to put on my glasses at some point and go ahead and kind of lean in. I'm the only person here in the room right now. You guys are used to seeing me from different locations and from the studio at our house, but right now I'm actually in the theater. It's not anything terribly cool, although you could probably see this sign back here that says, "Warning, please do not feed the zombies." But this is where our kids hang out quite a bit. But what I'm going to do is going go ahead and get started. First, tell you a little bit about what I've done, how it's affected my life in positive ways, and hopefully, you'll maybe gravitate or feel compelled to listen further. And again, what I'll do is kind of lean in, maybe towards the end, take a few questions and answer those. But right now, because I'm not wearing my glasses, because if I put on my glasses, I think I get a little bit of glare. Yeah, I get a little bit of glare from the back. But anyways, I'll put on my glasses and go from there. And Tom, Kanda, I know there's a bunch of folks watching as I've seen those scroll down. Glad you joined us. But what I want to do is kind of just return back to the beginning. Improvisation, I think, is just being prepared to react to the unexpected. And so after I graduated college, I was still in my early 20s. One of the things that we would do in the autumn time is we'd grab our friends and our girlfriends and we'd head out to the nonprofit haunted houses. And I don't know if you guys remember that, but back in the 70s and the 80s, those autumn shows were primarily nonprofit. They were run by Lions Club or the JCs here locally. Sometimes they were put on by church clubs, church youth organizations to raise funds for the community. And so that was just kind of our autumn yearly thing, right? And we gather. I remember even as a young kid piling in an old station wagon with my friend, and we'd go, and it was stuffed full of boys, and we'd go to a local haunted house here. Well, we continued that through high school, and as I was in college and nearing graduation of college, of course, I just continued that, and I still do that today. But one of the shows was one of special interest, and it's here local. It was run by the Lions Club. It's the Bloodview Haunted House. And as we would go there, we went there for a good reason. One is that the show was better than most of the others here, although the others were strong too. But there was some improvisation that was going on, and specifically in the queue line. And if you went to that haunted house on a Saturday, certainly on a Friday, maybe between the hours of 9 and 11, there was sometimes a large corral of people waiting to get in. And if you can imagine, sometimes 300, 400, 500 people, I think on busy nights, would just kind of be lined up back and forth and back and forth. And what the improv actors and what Bloodview Haunted House did at that time is they would stage these characters in this queue line. And if you were waiting for an hour to get in, these improvisational actors were there to make sure that you didn't get bored, you didn't maybe go ask for your money back, and that you remained entertained while waiting to get into the front door. One night, and if you're from Northeast Ohio and you're around my age, you may remember this character. But one night we went in there, and it was my younger brother and myself, and it was our girlfriends, and we paid I think it was even $4 to get in. Paid for our tickets, shuffled into the queue line, and from afar we could see that the queue line was full, hundreds of people. And from afar we could also see that there was a character that was gaining a lot of attention and also creating kind of a commotion here in the queue line. And this character was kind of moving through, and remember there's hundreds of people, so you could see commotion and movement, and sometimes you'd see people part, and you'd see the character come through, and then it would just kind of go back in. But from afar, we could see that this one character had this, kind of looked bedraggled, had dusty hair, looked homeless, had ripped clothing out, I think like a longer jacket at the time, was carrying a broom, was kind of moving around, but he had a real unique movement, a really unique look, and would bounce every once in a while. And I remember when he'd bounce, you just kind of see what looks like dust kind of shaking from his hair. His face was misshapen, and I could see that there was a kind of a glistening, for lack of a better, glistening snot kind of hanging from one of his nostrils. Now remember, this is haunted house, this is improvisation, and in a full queue line. But he caught the folks' attention. There, folks that were entering the queue line, folks that were there for quite some time. He was just kind of moving about. Well, our group of four, remembers my younger brother, his girlfriend, myself, my girlfriend at the time. We were in the queue line, and my brother's girlfriend was super jumpy. And as soon as she, even as we were kind of approaching, she was very uneasy. But as we got there closer, she was actually moving behind my brother and kind of holding on to him like a human shield. And even when this particular character was far away, she started to hide. And as a matter of fact, if we would kind of turn one way, she would kind of move away just to keep out of sight from this character. Now, there was other improvisational characters moving about too, and so she really wasn't safe in any one direction, but she was especially shielding herself away from this one character. And of course, queue line moves, right? And so we started moving close to that character. Every once in a while, you'd hear kind of screams, and people would part, and this chaos would go about. And what I saw is as we were moving close to the character, we were probably still 20, 30, 40 feet away from him. And that character zoned into our group of four, and specifically could see that my brother's girlfriend was extremely jumping, was right at the very back, right? And he kind of sucked into our area, picked out that this was going to be a nice group, I think, to involve in his act, and continued to act around the people around him. And I remember if in that queue line, there were people surrounding him. So it wasn't just, he wasn't up on a stage, and he wasn't just acting for a few people, he was acting in a crowd. And so the hundreds of people surrounded him at all times. As we were moving towards him and he was acting and moving towards us, he could see that my brother's girlfriend was extremely jumpy. As a matter of fact, her name was Amy. Amy was just sickened at the sight. She kind of had a weak gag reflex, and she was a screamer as well. So anyways, she was just kind of shielding about, and that character knew it. Well, as we were moving closer to him, everybody else, the other hundreds of people, saw that he was kind of honing in on our group, specifically Amy in the very far back. As we moved closer and to him, and as he was just kind of waiting, I think very patiently at our arrival, Amy did something unexpected. I think it was unexpected, I don't know, but from my vantage point, it certainly felt unexpected. And what she did is she removed from her purse, and she was in the back, but I remember seeing kind of over our shoulder a tissue. Right. Now remember, this character had this kind of glistening snot hanging out of one nostril, right? And she hung this tissue out almost like a truce flag. And what the character did, and what I found out, is that the improv character's name was Booger, right? Booger saw this truce flag, or the tissue waving out in front, and he moved towards our group. And in doing so, what he did is he grabbed the tissue from her hands, and he grabbed it. I'm going to stand up here real quick because I think it'd probably be good for telling the story. But he grabbed the tissue, and what he did is he kind of turned his back towards us. Now, in kind of that in that setting, when somebody turns their back to you, I think there's a perceived sense of safety. And so, Amy, I really wasn't that jumpy, but I was really enjoying the show. But I think as soon as he turned his back on us, that she felt a sense of safety. Certainly she stopped pushing and twisting on us. But as he turned his back, all right, on us, he took the tissue that he took from her and he stuffed it between his butt cheeks like this, right? And he continued to kind of act in that direction. Again, away from us, but towards the rest of the group. Now imagine this character in a queue line of 500 people. Everybody's watching him, and everybody's watching what he's going to do with Amy, seeing this interaction that had gone on. It was probably minutes. May have been 2, maybe 3 minutes that he acted with this tissue on the outside of his costume, but clinched between his butt cheeks, and was acting with the stream of snot. As a matter of fact, during that act, he had even removed that what looked like to be a giant booger out of his nose, and then just parted the line. But anyways, the 500 people were chaotic and they were moving. Not the least of Amy, who was in our group, and the rest of us who was just enjoying this whole interactive experience. As we were moving forward, there was this nice space between Booger, the rest of the characters, and us, and he just kind of stood there, was acting, but he grabbed that tissue, which by now, because he was covered with all kinds of makeup powders, the tissue was already kind of dirty, and he just kind of holds it up, turns his back, but then he turns and rushes us, right? And at that point, Amy just picks up and leaves, gone. So out of the queue line, and out she is, and the entire hundreds of people who were in that queue line just kind of, I think, just sat there, and they roared in laughter and enjoyed that whole interactive experience. And at that point, remember, hundreds of people watching, Amy's gone, the three of us not quite sure what to do because we want to wait for Amy, but enjoying this whole experience. He grabs and he wipes his nose, and he kind of holds it out. He crumples up the tissue, and then he turns and he throws it into the queue line. And the queue line just spreads. We're talking hundreds of people kind of going every one direction, trying to stay away from that tissue that he just balled up and threw. And in a really strange fashion, I had experienced that improvisational act. I had seen it a couple times, but I never experienced it firsthand. And that was kind of this hook that grabbed me. I mean, I grew up in the artistic area, and so the improvisational, the character building, the special effects makeup was of interest to me. But really, what kind of hooked me into learning the art of improvisation was cued from that one interaction, that one night back in the 80s. Needless to say, what I ended up doing is I ended up going through the show. I don't know that Amy had ever joined us. I don't think that she did. I think she came back as we exited the door at the end. But needless to say, after we finished, I said to my brother, and I said, listen, I'm interested in just going back to see what needs to be done. I'm kind of interested in volunteering here as well. So I went around and volunteered. And in a very strange way, that experiencing that improvisation, and it's the fact that it was a character named Booger and that it was at a haunted house is not the relevant part. It is relevant, but it's not as relevant as it was that improvisation that was the hook. And I went around and I volunteered at that haunted house because I wanted to understand and kind of dissect that whole improvisational piece. I want to learn from it. I wanted to become a student, perhaps a teacher of it later, and was just real interested in kind of involving that with into an act, into improvisational acting myself, and then volunteering. And so I spent years, several years, kind of just seeing it, acting in it, found myself in these huge queue lines, both here locally in Ohio and in huge queue lines in other areas. Larger areas were Atlanta and Chicago, Philadelphia. And when I found myself in these large queue lines, I came up with some tricks that helped me, but allowed me to go ahead and teach that to other folks who were in that same type of venue. But it also allowed me to train folks that were improving in other areas. And what I found was, because I learned how to do it in a theatrical sense, that I became better at sales, which is what I was doing at the time. I found out that when I interviewed better for positions because I was prepared to respond to the unexpected. And so uh, my whole intention here is to kind of share that, because I know there's a bunch of folks here who are improvisational actors who are saying, can you teach me how to do this, right? Or can you teach my staff how to do this? Or they're going to share it or send folks to watch this back, and there's going to be some improvisational theatrical folks that are going to be watching this. And I can help you that, because that's what I've been teaching for decades. But there's also going to be those folks that say, I'm at a crossroads in my life where I'm looking to try something else career-wise, or I'm struggling with some relationships, or I'm a college student and I've just accumulated $30,000 in debt and I need to find a way to get a job and to do well in that interview process. So from wherever you're coming from, I think that the idea of improv, and what I'll be talking about for the next, this week, but the next 3 weeks here in August, I think will be of special interest to you. Again, if you are an improvisational actor, right, and if you happen to be one of those cue line haunt actors, the timing is perfect for you, because this can go ahead and help there. If you are a medieval fantasy fair, if you are, and I remember growing up seeing some really effective mimes, right, completely interactive but with no talking, this will be right up your alley. And then over the next 3 weeks, we're going to kind of take that, we're going to peel back the layers. As I've been teaching this, and some of you have been to my seminars and have gone to my classes or have seen my DVD series. If you're one of those people, what you'll find out is that we're going to peel this back probably more so than we had a chance in the class. So we're going to take a look at the art form of improvisation, how to use it in different areas of life. We're going to go ahead and peel it back so that we kind of take this art form and we try to create a model at which you can understand it, in which you can replicate it, and in which you can practice it so that you'll be good. As a matter of fact, I think that every college curriculum should have improvisation, because as you're spending, what if it's a state school, $20,000 a year, and you're investing $80,000 into your life, or your parents are investing that into your lives. You spend that money, and then you get thrown out into the world, and you're like, okay, now what? So you work on a resume, you finally get that interview, and if you're not prepared for that interview, and you're not good at improvisation, which is responding to the unexpected. We could all respond to the expected. We're going to be talking about that, but to respond to the unexpected, to do it with calm demeanor, to be able to do it with confidence, and to be able to talk about those things that fit in line with your character. So we're going to go into that. As I've been rambling on here for the last 15, 20 minutes, I'm glad you guys stuck with me. If you joined late, after this is saved, you can go back and watch it again. And again, I urge you to set aside Tuesdays at 7 if you want to watch this live. If not, you can certainly catch up with it afterwards. But I am glad that you're with us. And what I'm going to do is put on my glasses here, and I'm going to kind of lean in, and I see a bunch of folks that I've known for quite some time. Julie, it's good to see you. And Leo, and I know this has been just kind of going down. Jeff Glasser. These are folks that I've known, folks that I call family and close friends. And what I'm looking for is if anybody has, there's my wife, Beth Miller. I miss you. I know that you're working on a theatrical thing out in Akron, so do well. And I'll probably pull my wife in here so you guys can all enjoy her presence as well. And she's a great actress too. But at any rate, if anybody has any quick questions, we're going to go ahead and I'll stick around for a few minutes to answer those questions. But again, the intention here was just kind of to provide maybe a background, to talk about the beginning, and then over the next several weeks, we're going to go ahead and kind of dig into improvisation. Again, if you're thinking to yourself, how does this apply to me? I think it applies certainly to any area of your life. I have spoke with students. I have spoke with corporations. I've taught this to actors and some theatrical groups. I've spoke with this regarding with some folks in the business world, folks who are setting up small businesses, artists and actors and the creatives out there. So I'm glad that you've joined, and I'm confident that you guys will find that this is relevant to your life. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, I'm going to wait it out for just maybe another 30 seconds. And Amy, it's good to see you that clicked in here. How are you doing? Amy and I worked together for many years. And in another 30 seconds or so, I'm just going to kind of sign off and bid adieu till next week at Tuesday at 7. And at that point, we'll go ahead and, Michelle, it's good to see you. Bear hugs. And next week, we're going to go ahead and kind of dig into it. And what I'm going to do is not hold back any secrets, but next week, we're going to kind of dig into what I believe is a model to learn and to teach improvisational acting. And I've broken it into 3 different steps. And those steps are stage, go, engage. Stage, number 1, stage. Number 2 is go. Number 3 is engage. And so as we go into those weeks, week 1, I'm going to be primarily concentrating on the stage portion of improv. Week 2 is going to be a shorter week, but I'm going to go in and primarily take a look at the go, step 2 of improvisation. And then week 3, it's going to be the last weekend in August. Can you guys believe we're almost already looking at the end of summer in just a few short weeks? But week 3 is going to be engage. So next week, stage. After that is go, and then engage. And we're looking to go ahead and help provide you some useful information so that you guys can do well. Let me see, Kanda. You can absolutely. Her question is, can you really teach improv? You guys are probably reading this. Isn't it a matter of the student's ability to engage? You guys, I'm gonna answer questions for as long as keep coming in. Thank you, Kanda, for that question. And so my thought is absolutely, it's a learned skill. If you are probably 30 years old, maybe above, and then even some under 30s, you may remember Whose Line Is It Anyways? It was the Drew Carey show, and they got a bunch of comedians up on stage. And what we're not teaching is comic stage improv. What we're going to do is, or something's taught by Second City, we're going to be teaching something different. But for Whose Line Is It Anyways? And if you haven't seen it, click in, check it out on YouTube. But you get these 4 guys, or four people, sometimes there were gals up there as well, and they'd be given a scenario, or they'd be given props, they'd be given some type of situation that they would then provide a comic skit. And at that point, I mean, even if it was, somebody from the audience would choose a song, they would choose Steve, I'm glad to see you. I miss you, brother. And what they would do is, in Whose Line Is It Anyways, they would hand cues up, and these 4 individuals would grab those cues and create a comic act, or they would just on the fly create a song, to a country song using this theme or this prop. And I think when I was watching it, I certainly thought that those were rehearsed, and that somebody couldn't possibly be that witty and be as prepared to respond as those individuals were. And that was back before learning myself, and that was back before seeing people improv well in all kinds of different situations and in these huge groups of people. And so as we kind of talk about this, it's going to be preparing for common questions, common reactions, and it's also going to be prepared for those situations that are unexpected or less common. And so it is, I think some people are naturals at it, but those folks who aren't can certainly, I think, be taught how to do it and how to do it well. And yeah, Kanda, I see that you remember that show. So maybe your homework for next week is jump on YouTube, check out Whose Line Is It Anyways? That's a Drew Carey comic show. Just watch a few episodes, because we're not going to be teaching stage comic improv, but we're going to be teaching improv. And I think that no matter what kind of improv you're looking at, the skill sets that you can establish and learn are there. And again, I'm not making anything complicated. I'm not going to be providing something that is untouchable and unattainable. So this is kind of common stuff, and in a model I think that which will be easy for you to learn. But anyways, thank you all for watching and for joining. Feel free to share it if you feel compelled. And last but not least, have a great week. And I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 o'clock for the very first week, breaking together the stage, go, and engage tenets of improv. All right, guys, have a great week. Miss ya.